Hello everyone and welcome to Vidas and Victoria. Let's start with today's topic, and it is very important to take on this new series. I will be talking about it perhaps during what's left of this month and part of the month of April. Why to take decisions? It's a question I'd like for us to answer. Why to take decisions? Taking important decisions correctly and timely is one of the most complex and delicate challenges we face as human beings. From those depend a considerable part of our development and our happiness as well as others. Usually, there's no worse decision than the one we don't take. For whom is easier to take decisions? Raise your hand. For the vast majority of us, I think it is quite difficult. Decisions, since we wake up in the morning, we start taking decisions. Should I take a shower or not? That's the first decision, right? What should I wear? Should I use these clothes or these other clothes? Then that is done and comes the next dilemma. What shoes should I use? And I mean, taking decisions, even the simplest and smallest decisions, as those ones are difficult. For how many of you is difficult to decide what you'll be wearing today? Am I right? For the vast majority, we don't like taking decisions, and then we look for someone to help us take those decisions for us. And so we look for the nearest person and we ask them, what's better? With that, I look better? And from then it begins the big dilemma because no one likes others taking decisions for us. But in day to day life, practical life, as we don't like to take the responsibility that we need to take decisions, we then ask somebody else to take those decisions for us, even if we don't like that. We don't like someone else choosing for us, right? But we're always asking others what decisions should we take. And in that sense, taking decisions is the process by which a choice is made between two or more options. It is a whole process. I need to take a decision, and taking a decision takes me to make a choice. What path should I go? If there are three options, should I go straight, go left, go right? What should I do? I need to take decisions in different areas of my life. We need to take decisions in financial aspects. What should I do? Should I pay my debts or buy something I like? In what am I spending what I earned? Should I make an offering? Those are decisions that we need to take. We need to take decisions in our family. And how many times is easy to take decisions as a family? For whom is easy to make decisions as a family? It is difficult. Take family decisions. And many times there are family situations in which it is urgent that a decision is taken, but we don't take those decisions because it's hard for us. Taking personal decisions. I like that for a moment, all of us could think how many decisions that we should have already taken, we haven't taken. How many things in our life are still stuck because we don't have dared to take decisions. Taking decisions is crucial in our lives. Until we don't take a decision and we start acting based on that decision, our life will remain exactly the same. Or probably things may get worse in those areas of our lives which we haven't made a choice. It is because of it that today our big challenge is to learn to take the right decisions. We, why don't you ask the person by your side, do you know how to take right decisions? Don't answer, just think. I'm not expecting an answer. Don't give an answer, only use it so the person by your side for a moment thinks, let's see how many times in life I haven't taken the right decision. And let's go to an example from the Bible. I like us to read 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 7 forward. Some Hebrews even crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul remained at Gilgal, and all the troops with him were quaking with fear. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal. Saul's men began to scatter. So he said, Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offerings. And Saul offered up the burnt offering. Just as he finished making the offering, Samuel arrived, and Saul went out to greet him. "What have you done?" asked Samuel. Saul replied, "When I saw that the men were scattering, and that you did not come at the set time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering." Please read up next. And Samuel said to Saul, "You have done a foolish thing. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time, but now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command." Taking decisions is important, but we need to be careful of not committing foolish mistakes with the decisions taken. To take decisions is already hard, but not to know in what base our decisions taken makes our life even more complicated. If we need to take a decision, then we need to define under what criteria we should take those decisions. Because usually no one teaches us how to take decisions. Normally, when we ask someone about making a decision, usually the answer is, "Both look fine." I mean, the people we ask so we take a decision many times are not the right people to take those decisions. Therefore, decisions are taken based on principles. What is the principle that in this case Saul didn't follow? The principle was to follow an instruction from God. When we are going to take decisions, the first thing we need to consider is, what does God say about this that I need to decide on? I need to decide, for instance, if my son misbehaved, I need to take a decision. What will I do with my son that misbehaved? Then the first thing I need to consider is, what does God say about what I need to do as a father when my children did something bad? What does the Bible say about it? So the Bible says that if my son did something bad, I need to do what? To correct him, right? Then I need to base that decision in that principle of the church, that I need to correct him. But the Bible also adds another principle. When we're going to correct our children, what's that second principle? Correct him, but don't make him angry. Don't exasperate him. Hence, you need to correct them, yes, but you need to find the best way to do it. And many times we take decisions, but we don't walk based on that principle. We're only based on an idea, and we don't have in mind the whole idea. If I have a financial problem I need to decide on, and I have to ask myself, what does God say about this? Comes a person asking me to sign for him as a guarantor, because they are going to request a loan to the bank. What does the Bible say I need to do when someone comes asking me to sign as a guarantor? That we should not be guarantor of anybody. Then, how many times we've gotten into troubles for taking bad decisions, for being a guarantor of someone? If I decide I'll be someone's guarantor, it means I really know and have clear that if this person, for any reason or circumstance, cannot pay that loan, I am willing to pay it without getting mad at this person, right? If someone comes to me and tells me, "Pastor, can you be my guarantor?" and I tell them, "Yes, of course, it's my pleasure," I am assuming obligations with this person for that loan they're requesting, and that if that person is not going to pay it, I am going to pay it. Then, if I am willing to pay it, I can do that. But if I don't have plans for paying somebody else's debt, then I need to apply the Bible's principle and not be a guarantor, because I am not willing to pay what others spend. Am I being clear? Then I need to take decisions. Now it's easy to take decisions of telling someone, I can't be your guarantor. And they'll tell you, but why? If you own a house and it's free of liens and I need someone to sign that doesn't have problems with his house and you can do it, then telling them no is my decision. If I took a bad decision and sign as a guarantor, then I need to be aware that no one is forcing me to do it. Simply, I did not follow the principles of obeying God. That's what happened with Saul. Saul simply forgot to follow the principle, which was following an instruction that God gave him. When we read the reasons he gave for making that decision, he was based in the fact that he was going to do something, go out to war without asking upon the Lord for help. How can you ask God to help you disobeying? It's like if we told God, Lord, please help me to disobey you. Because God has already given an instruction. I want to do something contrary to what God told, but for doing so, I need to ask God to help me doing exactly the opposite He told me to do. Isn't that totally naive? That's why Samuel answers Saul telling him, you have done a foolish thing. How do you happen to think that disobeying God, he had to respect the authority and role that God had given him, and the authority and role that God had given upon Samuel? The king had authority, yes or no? But in the spiritual aspect, he needed to obey his authority as priest. Then he said, well, if Samuel doesn't make it on time and he's not doing what he's supposed to do, then I'll do it because I have authority. Then he forgot that he had authority over certain things, but there were others where he hadn't. And now, how tough is for us to understand this principle. If your father tells you, wait for me in that corner block, don't move from there until I come back. And if your dad and or your mom told you they would pick you up there and they're not arriving, what can you do? You can either wait there as instructed, or you can take a decision of saying, I won't wait for them, I'm going to take a bus, I'll do it this way, I'll request a ride, whatever. Then you can take that decision. Let's see, young guys, yes or no? Can you take that decision? No. Your dad told you, wait there until I get there. Your dad and you are not equal. He has authority upon your life. And if he told you, wait there, and you are someone that knows what decision to take based on the biblical principle, you wait there until your dad arrives. Well, Pastor, look, I think it is taking him too long. I want to help him. Then I'm leaving. When I get home, he will realize I helped him. That's what Saul thought. Under that criteria, he took a decision, thinking he could make decisions over things God wouldn't let him take decisions on. That is something we need to have clear in our minds. There are areas on which God has given an instruction and He will not let us take decisions. And there are areas of our lives on which God will tell us, son, you choose. Free will that God has given us has a limit. And that limit is when God has given us a specific instruction and we need to respect His authority and to respect the different roles everybody have at home. If you need to take a family decision, there are family decisions that some members can't take on their own. There are decisions in which both husband and wife need to agree on. When one of them takes a decision on their own on those things where the decision should have been taken together, you're taking bad decisions. There are decisions the kids can't take on their own. They need to consult with their parents to take those decisions. Until when? Until they become adults? No, until they get married. Because until they get married and have a family on their own, There's a new family with different authorities. While they're not married, they're bound to their authority at home. Doesn't the Bible say so? The man shall leave his father and mother and will join his wife. Will be a new family, and then there is a new authority. There is a new head of a family, a new ideal help, and there are new children. While they're at home, they're bound to the authority, father, bound to the ideal help, mother, because their role is being the children. That's a clearly stated principle in the Bible, but it's hard for us to tell our children they have to obey us. But I'm already making my own money. That's fine. I earned my own money for quite some time and I sustained you for many years. So if you want to count, we can have a bill so we know until when you will pay off everything I've given to you. So I give you freedom. Just kidding. Am I explaining it? Am I clear? There is a role, a position, a delegated authority. There is an established role, and we need to take decisions based on that, and we cannot change God's principles. Take decisions out of those established principles by God, and to think that's going to work or think we will be doing well, that's not going to work. A principle was to wait God's time. God had sent Samuel to do something. Samuel told Saul, I will arrive that day at that time, but God told Samuel to do something else. And that implied that Saul should have waited until the person designated by God, Samuel, do what he had to do. And that's a way God guides us to take decisions on time, because someone could say, but Samuel didn't make it on time, hence Saul wasn't wrong. That's how any one of us would think today. But God said, no, I was marking a time for Samuel, and although Samuel said he was going to arrive at a certain time, I decide over the life of Samuel. And Samuel take the right decision of obeying me, not to look good with Saul. So when we're going to take decisions, you must be aware that God has a time for everything. And that's another problem for us, because many times we make appointments without asking God, and we compromise with something that we later need to fulfill, and by fulfilling that, we're actually failing God. We had an experience some years ago with a music band that went to San Juan de los Lagos when we were there, and in that band they were from different places. One of the members was from Torreon, other one was from San Juan de los Lagos, and another one from the southeast of Mexico. So they went out on tour, making a promise to God, and they told God, we will go preaching to the three places we belong to. Each of these members belong to three different places. So they took that decision. They arrived to Torreon. There, one of them, who was single, met a girl, fell in love with her, and told her, I want to marry you, and asked her parents for their blessing, like love at first sight, right? And he tells her parents, allow me to engage with your daughter. I'll be out for some days in Mexico City. Can you grant her permission to come with us on tour? And when we come back, you can start arranging the wedding. Here's the money to prepare the wedding. When we come back, we'll marry and we're going to live in the US. They actually came from the US. And her parents agreed. So they went to Torreon, then to San Juan de los Lagos, and when they were about to go out of San Juan de los Lagos, God speaks to me and tells me, tell them to go to the US from here. They were going to Puebla, the other place they needed to go to. Tell them to not go to Puebla. Tell them to go back to the US directly from here, because if they go to Puebla, they will die in an accident. And the leader of the band said to me, no, we promised God we were going to go to those three places. We don't go back until we accomplish what we promised to God. And they went to Puebla, performed there. When they were coming back, a pastor from Mexico City asked them to give him a ride, and they said, Of course, come with us, Pastor. The pastor tells them, I see you're tired. Let me help you driving. He helps them driving, and passing Tehuacan, Puebla, in a curve, the pastor loses control of the vehicle, falls 25-30 meters off a cliff. The band's director and his wife died. That boy's fiancée, all the rest are hurt. The wife of the pastor that was driving also dies. So there are 4 dead and the rest are injured. All because one was not able to understand the right time of that decision. There are decisions that are important. Could someone think that a decision that small would end on that? They left their daughters orphaned. The other boy that was just engaged survived, but when he came back to the house of those who were going to be his in-laws, was to bring them the body of their daughter. The pastor that was driving was widowed, all due to one decision. When we don't understand there are principles to take decisions, we can make bad or wrong decisions. If taking decisions is difficult, maybe you're thinking, well, Pastor, it's even more difficult how you're putting it. No, it's actually easier when we follow these principles. We have to obey God, respect the authority, know when is the right time, God's time. That's learning to take decisions. Sometimes God allows things to happen because He's protecting us from something. How many times you've said, I'm late, and you go out, and when you go out, you see there's a huge accident that could have been you, and say, thank God I was late and I wasn't ready 10 minutes ago because maybe it could have been me. Am I right? Sometimes God needs to help us because it's difficult for us to take decisions based on their principles. And we take wrong decisions because usually in what we're based when we take decisions. Decisions are not taken due to people's pressure. And the vast majority of us take decisions based on what others say, based on what others think, or what others could think or do. So when Samuel arrives and Saul had just made the offering that he shouldn't have offered, and when he hears that Samuel arrived, Saul goes out to welcome him and tells him, don't worry, I have already made the offering because you were not arriving. I helped you. And Samuel asks him, why did you do that? Hear the answer. Because I saw that the people, because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you were not arriving, and the Philistines gathered themselves. What's the worst part of not taking the right decisions? That there will always someone we blame for those decisions. That's why we need to take decisions by ourselves. When someone comes to me for advice, what do you think is the question they ask more often? Pastor, what should I do? And I tell them, well, I see you have this option, or this option, or this option. And which one is the best option? Well, you need to take that decision. But it's not easy for us to take decisions. We prefer that in some things others choose for us. Because if someone makes that choice for us and things turn out wrong, then the others are guilty that I made the wrong decision. Then I have someone to blame for my tragedy. And that takes us to the role many of us like to live, playing the victim of the circumstances. Because we react under pressure, pushed by people. How many times we have said no to someone, and that someone we told no insists or pushes, and we change our decision. And when things go wrong, see, I told you we shouldn't have done this, but I insisted and you agreed. Hence, as you agreed, even if at first you said no, who changed the decision? Can you say, I did? Right? Then When I took the decision of saying yes to something I had previously said no to, then I took a wrong decision based on what others wanted, not in what I wanted. And I need to assume that I have to take decisions based on myself and not for people's pressure. Especially us leaders, we have that problem. So people is happy, we tell them yes to things we had previously said no to. As parents, we frequently do that. Our kids ask for something, we tell them no, but then they push us and we tell them yes. At work, sometimes we do things we don't want to due to other people pushing us. Then that is something we need to learn. We need to take decisions and not base our decisions in what other people think or say. Saul made the big mistake of reacting to people pushing him. He thought, my men are scattering from me. For Saul was important for him to defeat the Philistines, yes or no? Saul knew how to win the battles against the Philistines, yes or no? How many times the people of Israel depended on the amount of soldiers they had to win a battle? How many times have you read in the Bible and said, as they had 800,000 soldiers, they beat the other army of 20,000 that was battling Israel. Israel had a bigger army. Have you read that in the Bible? It's exactly the opposite. The Jews were 300 and the others were 50,000, but as the Jews had God on their side, they won. That was the story. Saul knew it didn't depend on how many soldiers they had. He knew he depended on God to help them, in having God's favor. But at that moment, seeing people scattering from him, he took the wrong decision. He reacted under people pushing him. How many times have we agreed to things just to avoid upsetting others? And we do things we don't want to do, things we shouldn't do, just to please others. And who is responsible for the consequences of taking those decisions? Saul blamed the Philistines. He blamed Samuel. You were not arriving on time. The people were scattering from me, and the Philistines were getting ready for battle. So all those circumstances there made me to take that decision. Therefore, decisions must not be taken based on what others think or what others want me to do, but in what I want. And also, do not let the circumstances or situations to force us to take decisions and do what we don't want to do or what we shouldn't do. When we take a bad decision and we ask ourselves, why? Why did I take that decision? What is our answer? I didn't have a choice. Of course we have a choice. If we would have stopped paying attention to the situation and we would have listened to what God was telling us, we would have taken another decision. We always have more than just one option. We always have more than just one option, and we need to learn to decide which of those options we are going to take. Am I clear? Then who needs to take decisions? I need to take decisions. In what I need to make my decisions? In the principles established by God. What I need to consider? What God established. Not what the people think, not what the circumstances point me to, but what God wants us to do. If you read the Bible, it also tells us in 1 Samuel chapter 22, and we won't be reading that today, but it says David, the one who replaced Saul, had to make a decision. Saul was jealous and wanted to kill David. David lived in a certain region and he knew he was in danger in that place, so David prays to God and takes the decision to go to the cave of Adullam. When David gets to the cave of Adullam, he's on his own. He didn't tell anyone nor ask anyone to go with him. He took a decision. And when he took that decision of going to the cave, the Bible says that some days later, David's father and brothers went to the cave. Remember that David's brothers were jealous of David. They didn't believe in him. They attacked David when he was telling stories about how he used to hunt bears and lions. They didn't accept him. But when someone takes good decisions, people around that someone follow that person instead of that someone following the people. When you learn to take the right decisions, you will influence others. When you allow others to push you and you end up doing what they want, then you are following someone else's leadership. Someone that perhaps doesn't know how to take decisions. The Bible says that once David was there in the cave and his father and his brothers arrived, other people from other places started to arrive too. Maybe the people that were following David were in bad situations, people in debt, people with problems, people with a hard heart. All the types of people that seemed to have problems went to the cave where David was. David took a decision and there were people following that decision he took. Or someone took the decision and we all followed the person that took that decision. What do you prefer? To be the one taking decisions and causing others to follow you? Or to follow someone else that perhaps takes bad decisions? That is what it's all about. Situations cannot dictate the decisions I have to take. There are things I know I must do and things I know I must not do or want to do. So the decision falls on me. Decisions will always make an impact or cause an effect in our life. Going back to Saul's story, when Saul was telling Samuel, "You were not arriving, people were scattering from me. The Philistines were getting ready for battle, so I took a decision." So then Samuel tells him, "You have done a foolish thing. You took a really bad decision. Because I will tell you the consequences of the decision you took. You were the king of Israel until today, because today God has another one. Your sons were going to inherit the throne, but now your sons won't inherit the throne, because you made the mistake of taking decisions based on what people did and what the circumstances pushed you to. You didn't have the capacity of taking decisions based on the established principles. Therefore, there are decisions that will impact our life and our children's lives. What a bummer, huh? To know that what I decide will affect me hurts, but knowing that what I decide will affect my children hurts even more, because my children will suffer the consequences of my bad decisions. How many kids have traumas because they weren't planned, because their parents didn't wait for the moment, because they didn't follow the principles, because they had sexual relationships out of marriage? The girl gets pregnant, and under the pressure of those circumstances, they decide to get married. And the kids that were not responsible for it are now suffering because they feel rejected. Rejection caused by their parents during pregnancy. It seems something so simple, right? That kid will pass through different phases other kids won't. When those that have been married for a while and haven't had children, but they want a child, then the woman gets pregnant and you figure it. After 2, 3, 7 years of being married, they say, "Wow, thank you God, you sent us a child." And so the baby in the womb feels wanted, knowing his or her parents wanted to have him, her. Every day the parents are inspired and motivated, take care and make arrangements so the child feels welcomed and wanted even before being born. A decision can change the future of our children since the very moment of gestation, actually. But during all of our life, our bad decisions affect our children. If our kids don't have shoes and we tell them we don't have money to buy you shoes, but our kids watch us spend money in other stuff, they would say, "How come there is no money for my shoes, but there is money for other stuff? To go to a restaurant, to buy that huge TV to watch, football, or any other, maybe soap operas, whatever." Anyway, we take decisions about our finances, and those decisions we take on that area affect our kids. True or false? We take decisions about our spiritual life that affect us and affect our children. It happens that our children want to seek God, they want to come to the church, but we have other things to do and don't prioritize that our children need to congregate, that our children need to grow spiritually. We prioritize other things over it. And when we want our children to seek God or connect with God, they are so connected with other things that they can't relate with God because we took decisions. Am I putting this clear? Let's say, for example, on a Sunday you wake up and your kids are excited. Yeah, we're going to do the church. And you tell them, we're not going to the church, your aunt invited us to have lunch. Later on, the kid won't go to the church, and neither will the aunt. She will be in other places you don't want her to be. If you can say amen in this part, you can say ouch. We take decisions and don't realize our decisions transcend to our kids. Our bad financial management, our bad prioritization of what matters, what is needed, what cannot be missing. We need to realize that there are things we shouldn't do. And if we do those things just because we want to, ignoring those biblical principles, ignoring God's instructions, there will always be consequences. Because there are decisions that even affect our roles. You know, we all have an assigned role and function, right? Did you know God assigned you to do something? God has a perfect plan designed for each and every one of us, and God's plan for us is great. Do you know what is God's plan for your life, or you don't? I know that for the vast majority of us, it's hard to identify the reason why we're here. The tragedy of this plan is that if God assigned me a task or mission, He cannot assign it to someone from the same generation. I mean, if God assigned me to do something, only I can do it. There's no one in my generation that can do it. For someone to come and do what I didn't do for not following God's command, I need to die so someone else takes my place. I need to be disposed by God so someone else takes my place. How many of you would like to take bad decisions so someone takes your place? No one? Because that was the consequence of Saul's decision. Samuel told Saul, you screwed up. You didn't take good decisions. And as you didn't take the right decisions, God thought you were going to be the king for the rest of your life and that your children would heir the throne after you. That was your mission, the task God assigned you, and you thrown everything away today when you took a bad decision. Because by taking this bad decision, God has now needed to choose someone else, and your children will not be the lineage through which the Messiah will be born. Can you imagine all that Saul was losing due to that bad decision? His kids not hearing the throne was nothing, but God had chosen to send the Messiah, the Savior of the world, through a descendant from Saul's lineage. And at that moment, God said, it won't be from Saul's lineage anymore. It will be from David's lineage. Can you picture how Saul's life would have changed if that day he would have thought, I'm not the priest. If the people is leaving, let them go. The Philistines want to battle, let them wait. That's what Saul should have done. You want to leave? Go. When God tells me I have to battle, I'll do it with or without you. That is what Saul must have done. Samuel is not arriving? I'll wait because he's the one that needs to do the offering. I cannot do it. That is not my role. I would be stepping on Samuel's role. So, I'm waiting until Samuel arrives, because God sent Samuel to do that. He didn't send me. And if the Philistines want to battle, let them battle if they want, but I won't step into the line of fire until God authorizes it. It would have been that easy. But he took a decision due to people pushing him. The circumstances pushed him, and God tells him, it's okay, just that decision you took will have consequences on you, your children, your role, your lineage, and will impact your finances and all the areas of your life. Therefore, taking decisions is a great challenge we'll have. We need to take decisions every day because someday we could take a wrong decision, and that wrong decision could affect us, could affect our lineage and other areas of our lives because no one else can take the decisions that we need to take. This is just the introduction. Wait for what is coming. In the next days, we will speak about the need of taking decisions. No one else has the right to take decisions for us except when God tells us, this is what you need to do. Remember that free will is for certain things, not for everything. Free will has a limit, and that limit is when God gives us a specific instruction about something. There are things where God lets us choose and things where God doesn't let us choose. I know this may come as a shock for you, as you've always thought you can take all the decisions you want, but reality is we can't take all the decisions we want to. There are things where God has told you the things you need to do and have no choice. Let me give you an example. I'm finishing with this, I promise. Someday, my mom and my grandmother took decisions in their lives that would impact my life and my siblings' lives. Someday, they decided to take us to the church when we were just babies. They took us to the altar and presented us to God. And they told God, my Lord, here is my son. You gave him to me, you lent it to me, I give him to you. Take him in your hands and do with them what you want. That could seem as just a normal tradition, right? All Christians do, and they said, we'll do it. But that they were taking a decision that would affect them and would affect us because they were making a vow to God, a pact with God, where our lives that were our lives but were under their authority, they put them under God's direct authority. And there was a time in our lives where we didn't want to follow my mom's and my grandmother's beliefs. I wanted to do what I want with my life because I can do whatever I want and what I like because I have free will. I can make decisions on my own. That's what I thought. What my siblings and I thought. They said, we'll do what we want to do. And God said, all right, go ahead. And God let us try doing what we wanted. But there was a day when my grandma woke up early in the morning and started talking with God, and she told God, do you remember that day we presented you my grandsons, Lord? I brought them to you. They belong to you. There is a legal right that I gave you upon their lives, so don't leave them be. Wherever they are and whatever they are doing, make them remember they belong to you. Then I would say, I'm going to get drunk. I'll do whatever I want. So I was going to get drunk. I would be with my friends sitting at the table, open up a beer, try to drink it, and something inside me say to me, you are a fool. Do you know where that is going to take you? Do you think you will be someone in life if you drink that beer? The worst part is that I told those sitting at the table, you're all fools. Why are you going to drink that beer? So I then started to tell them that drinking a beer was the worst thing they could do with their lives. And I could never drink a beer in peace. I never could finish a beer because I would always ended up remembering that was something foolish to do and ended up telling everyone there to not drink beer. I was not a pastor then. I wanted to do all the bad things. I literally hated God that time. Every day I talked with God was only to blame Him and tell Him a lot of bad things that I won't say. But there was someone that took a decision in a moment of her life that affected mine. Have you done something like that? Did you present your kids to God? Are your kids with God? You have a blank check, a legal right to exercise, a decision to take to say to God, do you remember He's yours? Wherever He is, whatever He's doing, I gave you the right because I took a decision. And decisions affect for good and for bad. When you made a commitment with God and told Him, here is my life, it belongs to you, I'm yours, do with me what you want, and then you took another decision, God noted that as our debt with Him, and at the same time, a debt of Him with us. Those, there are things where a right has been established. And even if you want to take another decision, God won't let you. You can fight, but in the end, you'll have to do what someone decided for you in an area of your life where you didn't even agree to that. But there will be other things where you need to take decisions on. In those things that other decided for you as an authority above you, you can't do anything about them. But on those you need to decide on, nobody else can take those for you. And whatever you decide will have an effect on you and your children, for good or for bad. Why don't you stand on your feet for a moment? Let's talk with God and tell Him, my Lord, teach me to take decisions.